الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. In our previous class, we had begun reading the portion the author he mentioned about adab ad-daris, the manners of the student. أي آداب طالب العلم, meaning the manners of the student of knowledge. And he mentioned, rahimahullah ta'ala, that with regards to the manners of his self, or with regards to the manners regarding to his self and how he moves inwardly and outwardly, those etiquettes and manners related to his self personally, then they are the same as the manners of the teacher. And this issue has proceeded. And then he began again reaffirming the importance of purifying the heart, in order for the knowledge to have a place to reside in, because knowledge is life from Allah Azza wa Jal, and it is pure, and it requires a place that is pure and sound to reside in order for it to flourish and to grow and to benefit that person. So therefore, the student of knowledge, he must have great care and concern with purifying his heart from those lowly desires and from those lowly and despicable manners and conduct related to the heart specifically, from envy and jealousy and wanting to be heard or wanting to be seen or to have position or to have rank. And this is from the greatest things that would deter a student of knowledge from truly benefiting from his knowledge. He will go from a seeker of the hereafter to a seeker of the dunya, with this intention here, with this foul and lowly intention. So this must be purified. After this, he mentioned likewise, rahimahullah, in this context. And we read that portion again. He says, وَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يُطَهِّرَ قَلْبَهُ مِنَ الْأَدْنَاسِ لِيَصْلُحَ لِقَبُولِ الْعِلْمِ وَحِفْظِهِ وَاسْتِثْمَارِهِ وأن يقطع العلائق الشاغلة عن كمال الاجتهاد ويرضى باليسير من القوت ويصبر على ضيق العيش. Along with that, after purifying his heart, the next issue that he's discussing, rahimahullah ta'ala, is the issue of time and the importance of taking care of one's time and being diligent with one's time and not wasting time, and being diligent and showing great care and concern to arrange that properly. So therefore, he will cut off the ala'iq al-shaghila. Al-ala'iq al-shaghila. The ala'iq, these are the affairs that the heart is attached to. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned a beautiful definition of this word, the ala'iq. كل ما تعلق به القلب دون الله ورسوله من ملاذ الدنيا وشهواتها ورئاساتها وصحبة الناس والتعلق بهم. يعني the ala'iq al-shaghila. These attachments here that are distracting, that would preoccupy a person. He's telling us now, the author rahimahullah, a student of knowledge, he must cut those off. He must cut these ala'iq al-shaghila off, these relationships and these desires or attachments in the heart that preoccupy him from that which he is aiming to obtain. So these ala'iq that preoccupy a person, it is everything that the heart is attached to besides Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, from the delights and the pleasures of this worldly life, and from the whims and the lusts and the desire to have leadership and authority, and likewise to accompany the people and to have companionship and friendship with the people and to be in their company often. So therefore, he's advising us now, for the one who wants to be diligent and striving to seek knowledge, he has to cut off these affairs. He has to lie in them. No doubt there are obligations with regards to some of these affairs that he must fulfill from his desires that are allowed and permissible, yani of the soul, with regards to food and drink, and likewise with regards to relations and the likes like this. He will not cut them off entirely. Rather, he will fulfill that in a manner that is proper, but he will not go to extremes with regards to that. And likewise, the relationships with the people as well. There are relationships that is not allowed for him to cut off entirely. So he's not intending this affair, but rather to lighten them or to lessen them and to arrange them in the best order for him to benefit and to strive to obtain what he is looking for. And that is kamal al-ijtihad, because these things will turn him away from kamal al-ijtihad, yani from striving or from completing the issue of striving his best to seek knowledge and to learn. So therefore he will be pleased with a little bit of provision. وَيَرْضَى بِالْيَسِيرِ مِنَ الْقُوتِ. He will be pleased and satisfied. He will have a rida wal-qana'a wal-iktifa' bil-yasiri min al-qut. He will be sufficed with that which will suffice him. And he had enough provision and nourishment that would be considered sufficient for him. He will not have to go into extremes or into great effort and hardship and difficulty to find provision. Rather, he will suffice with that which is available and that which will be sufficient for him in his nourishment. So he'll not go into great luxuries with this, because this likewise will cut him off and turn him away. وَيَصْبِرَ عَلَى ضَيْقِ الْعَيْشِ. And he'll be patient upon a tight livelihood, and living in a manner that is not in a manner of luxury. And many times this is the case for the student of knowledge. He will spend all of his time and his wealth in knowledge. So therefore, many times he will not have income that will be enough for him to have any luxury or great luxuries like much of the rest of the people in society. Rather, he will suffice with that which is sufficient in order to obtain his goal. So he says now, قال أبو حنيفة رضي الله عنه. Abu Hanifa, he says, رضي الله عنه, يستعان على العلم بجمع الهم ويستعان على حذف العلائق بأخذ اليسير عند الحاجة بأخذ اليسير عند الحاجة. Abu Hanifa, he says, rahimahullah, that one will seek aid upon knowledge, meaning upon seeking knowledge, by gathering his mind, collecting his mind and his aim and his desires, and بجمع همه and بذهنه وإرادته, gathering himself together, focusing on what he wants and what he's hoping to obtain, which is knowledge. So in order to obtain knowledge, from the affairs that will help him do that is to focus and to gather himself, and to put his mind directly on his aim, and to arrange his affairs in the best manner to achieve his goal, and to not be distracted, to cut off the distractions, all of the things that would deter him away from his goal or preoccupy him from his goal. And from that are these ala'iq that he's referring to. So Abu Hanifa, he says, rahimahullah, and likewise he will seek aid and assistance in removing those ala'iq, those relationships or those attachments of the heart and the likes like this, by sufficing with a small amount of provision whenever according to one's need. And whenever he has that need, he will obtain that, and he will look for that, and he will get that, and he will fulfill that. But he will not go to extremes in that. If he has a need, for food, he will fulfill that need, and he will keep on moving on the path of knowledge. If he has a need for drink and the likes like this, or relations with his family, and so on and so forth, he will take care of that need, and then he will move back to the path of knowledge and focus upon that. Or if he has a need for rest, his body or his mind needs rest, or he needs a break momentarily in order to recuperate and to gather himself and to gather his intention in his mind and the likes like that, he will take a brief break, and he will have some type of entertainment that is lawful and that is good, or some type of recreation that is permissible and allowed, in order to revive his soul, in order to rejuvenate his strength and his energy, and to get himself together to go back and strive even more diligently in learning and seeking knowledge in this manner like this. So this is a beautiful way. This here is a beautiful way. Now he says, وَقَالَ الْخَطِيبُ الْبَغْدَادِي وَقَالَ الْخَطِيبُ الْبَغْدَادِي رَحِمَهُ اللَّهِ. And he mentions that he says, وَيُسْتَحَبُّ لِلطَّالِبِ أَنْ يَكُونَ عَزَبًا مَا أَمْكَنَهُ لِأَلَّا يَقْطَعَهُ الاشتغال بحقوق الزوجة والاهتمام بالمعيشة and إكمال طالب العلم. So Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, he died in the year 463. He says that it's recommended for a student of knowledge to be unmarried, and to be unmarried, to be a bachelor, to be unmarried as much as he can, or as long as he can, in order for being preoccupied with the rights of his wife, and likewise concerned with obtaining the means of livelihood, so that this would not preoccupy him from the perfection or completing the seeking knowledge, for completing the issue of seeking knowledge. Allah knows best this is not entirely any correct. Rather, many times we will find that it is recommended to get married, and that many times having a wife will be a means to aid a person upon the path of knowledge, upon the path of knowledge. And then in any case, every time or every circumstance, it has its specific any rulings and the likes like that. So in times whenever the fitan are widespread and the people are tried, no doubt a person, he will not delay getting married. In this case here. So the people of knowledge, they mentioned if a person, no doubt whenever he's young, he should take advantage of that in his young age, in his youth, before he's ready to get married. This is the best affair, to benefit from that time specifically and striving to memorize and to learn and to gain an understanding in the religion, specifically with regards to memorization in the time of a youth. But if he reaches the age where now he has desires, if he is able to turn away from that, and these affairs do not bother him, and he's safe from falling into fornication and the likes like this, then maybe it would be said the likes of this statement, that it's recommended for him to strive. And if he knows from himself that he's not bothered by those desires, and he's not worried about being tried by that and falling into fornication, then to take advantage of that time while he can to seek knowledge, inshallah, could be beneficial. But if he has those desires and they're bothering him, he's afraid, then he will not use this as an excuse. He will not use this as an excuse. Rather, if he's able to get married, this is what we have been encouraged. In the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, "Ya ma'ashara al-shabab, man istata'a minkum al-ba'ata falyatazawwaj." Oh, you group of youth, anyone from amongst you who is able to fulfill the rights financially and physically of marriage, then he should get married. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he encouraged marriage for the youth, and if they are able to, if they're physically able to and financially able to, and the likes like this. So this is something that is encouraged. So a person, he will not let seeking knowledge deter him from that. But rather, many times a person, if he is diligent in searching for the right companion and a wife who will aid him and help him upon the path to paradise, he will find that she will be the greatest aid by the permission of Allah and help for him to seek knowledge and for him to learn. So this is something that, wallahu alam, would be understood in this light. If a person, he's not afraid of falling into fornication while he's young, or if he does not have the ability, then he will proceed upon seeking knowledge and turn away from marriage at that time. But if he's able to get married, then he should get married. And likewise, if he has those desires or he's afraid of falling into that, this will not be an excuse. The intention here is clear, and that is to be free from having any attachments and able to be freed up entirely to seek knowledge. But having a wife and the likes, as has been mentioned many times, will not prohibit that. Rather, it can be from the greatest means to aid and to help that, to aid and to support a person, again, especially if they're patient and they beg Allah Azza wa Jalla to provide them with the righteous wife who will help them upon that path, and they'll work together in that arena, and the issue of seeking knowledge, With regards to the ala'iq, we've seen that those are the things that the heart is attached to, from the lust and the desires, and the delights and the pleasures of this life, any other than Allah Azza wa Jal, and likewise from the relationships with the people. So it's recommended for the student of knowledge to minimize these affairs, eating and drinking and enjoying the delights of this life, in great luxury, and also partaking in the company with the people, and always being in the group with the brothers and in company with the people. He will minimize these affairs. A student of knowledge, from his methodology and way, he will minimize these affairs. He will fulfill the rights that are upon him, but even then he will arrange them in the best manner, and his goal is to seek knowledge and to learn and to benefit. But the knowledge calls him to give everyone who has a right their right, and accordingly. So he will not neglect the people's rights, but he will put them in their proper places, and he will prefer seeking knowledge over relaxing and over hanging out and over spending time in the company of the people in general, in the company of the people in general. Whenever the people of knowledge, they mention the ala'iq, they also mention along with that the awa'iq. And Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala in his book Al-Fawaid, he mentioned the great benefits for everyone who is trying to obtain something. A person who is seeking to obtain a goal, to achieve something beneficial that he hopes to have, then he has to cut off the ala'iq, and likewise he has to cut off al-awa'iq, and also he has to turn away from al-awa'id. Al-awa'id, yani yaqta' al-ala'iq wal-awa'iq wa yahjur al-awa'id. Al-awa'id. So these are three terms here that are important for the student of knowledge to be aware of. The first one is al-ala'iq, and this is what we have discussed here. Yani that the things the heart is attached to, from the delights of this life and the pleasures of this life, and from having leadership and authority, or from just enjoying oneself and having a good time, or likewise from having company and relationships with the people as well. So he will minimize these affairs, and he will put each one in its proper place. Likewise, the awa'iq. The awa'iq is are considered like roadblocks, things that will stop a person in his path. Things that will stop a person in his path. Ibn Qayyim, he mentioned anwa'ul mukhalafat. هي أنواع المخالفات ظاهرها وباطنها فإنها تعوق القلب عن سيره إلى الله وتقطع عليه طريقه. So these these are all different types of things that are in opposition to the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. All different types of affairs that are considered mukhalafat. The mukhalafat, there are issues that are in opposition and contrary to that which is pleasing to Allah. Contrary to that which is pleasing to Allah, inwardly and outwardly. So these things, they block the heart from traversing to Allah Azza wa Jal. These things are like roadblocks on the path that stop a person's heart from devoting himself entirely and truthfully and taking a path to Allah Azza wa Jal correctly. And he says, وَهِيَ ثَلَاثَ, and there are three. شِرْكٌ وَبِدْعَةٌ وَمَعْصِيَةٌ. Shirk وَبِدْعَةٌ وَمَعْصِيَةٌ. Shirk meaning associating partners, both times, major and minor. Major and minor, especially included here, is to seek knowledge for a worldly reason and gain. For a worldly reason and gain. This is the type of shirk, showing off or hoping for praise from the people and doing this action of worship, seeking a worldly position or gain or status or rank or authority or praise from the people. All this is a type of shirk. All of this is a type of shirk. Likewise, bid'ah, innovations, and also disobedience. So he says, and the means to free oneself or to remove يعني the aiq shirk, tajreed al-tawheed, to purify the tawheed. A person, he must purify the tawheed for the shirk to go away entirely. For the major and the minor shirk to go in every aspect, a person, he must have great concern and care for his tawheed, and yuhaqqiqa tawheedahu, that he will strive to actualize his tawheed and direct his heart to Allah alone with hope and love and fear and devotion and trust and reliance, and turn away from, and he turn his heart away from being devoted or directed to anything in this life. In this manner, he will purify the heart from that, and he will go straight. And likewise, with regards to the innovation, زوال البدعة يكون بتحقيق السنة. تحقيق السنة by بتحقيق السنة, by actualizing the sunnah, by learning it and actualizing it and implementing it properly and fulfilling the rights of that. In this manner, he'll be safe and free from innovations. And the last aiq here is al-ma'siyah. And he says that this ma'siyah, aiq al-ma'siyah yazulu بتصحيح التوبة, by correct and sincere and truly performing the repentance properly. And this occurs likewise by way of مجاهدة النفس على العمل بالعلم. And in order for the sins and the actions of disobedience to go away, his tawbah has to be correct. His repentance to Allah Azza wa Jal has to be sincere and proper. And this requires for him to strive against his soul, to leave off those actions of disobedience and turn away from them. To leave off those actions of disobedience and turn away from them. So these things here are awaiq in general for every Muslim on his path to Allah. And there are other awa'ik that the people of knowledge they mention with regards to the student of knowledge specifically. And it goes back to these affairs. They go back to these affairs, and he's stemming from that. Specifically with the student of knowledge, talabul ilmi li ghayrillah, to seek knowledge for other than the sake of Allah. We have seen a number of details with regards to that. And likewise, tarkul amali bil ilm. All of these are min awa'ik talib bil ilm. These are from the things that will block a student and stop him on his path to Allah and on his path to knowledge. On his path to knowledge and his path to Allah Azza wa Jal, to leave off implementing the knowledge that he learns. Also, al-i'timadu al-Kuttaab, also to rely upon the books and to not have a teacher who will teach him. We'll discuss some of these issues in more detail. This is a great problem that will prohibit a student of knowledge from truly benefiting and reaching his goal. Also, akhdul ilmi anil asagir, taking knowledge from the low ones, from the little ones who are not qualified, to have a teacher and to rely upon him, and he's not qualified to teach, or he's not qualified to discuss the affairs, or there are others who are more qualified to him. To be tried with a teacher who will sit and teach, that's not qualified. This is something that is a problem that will block a student from benefiting and from traversing down the path of knowledge and from raising and cultivating himself and removing ignorance from himself properly. Likewise, al-ghurur wal al-ujub wal kibr. These are all from the awa'ik that will stop a student and block him from benefiting from knowledge and benefiting from the knowledge. Al-istijal al-thamr, and to hasten the fruit of knowledge, to consider oneself ready to teach or to call when he's not reached that level yet, to put himself forward into the chair or into the forefront whenever he himself is not qualified yet and he has not reached that level yet, and maybe he's on the path and he's benefiting, but he has not reached the level yet where he's qualified to stand in front of the people or to speak in front of the people or to teach the people or to be a caller outwardly, openly, and the likes like this. I need to go past that level whenever one is not properly qualified. Dunu al-himma, likewise, dunu al-himma, to have low desire and concern and zeal. I need to have little care with knowledge, and to ضعف الرغبة, that a person, his raghbah will become weak and his desire to learn will become weak. And also at-taswif wat-tamanni. Also taswif with tamanni. Taswif, say, I will memorize it tomorrow, or I'll review it tomorrow, or I'll go to class next week, or I'll start going to this class whenever he starts this book. Or like this. So taswif, sawfa af'al. Like, I will do this, or I'm going to do this, or I'll start this. And delaying the affair. Procrastinating the issue of knowledge. Memorizing knowledge, going over knowledge, reviewing knowledge, sitting in the classes and learning, so on and so forth. Procrastinating. Also at tamanni, having false hopes. Oh, I'm going to study this book, or I'm going to complete this lesson, or I'm going to listen to all these recordings. And they're false hopes, and he doesn't ever act upon that. Or implement that. So all of these are from the awa'ik that will block and stop a person from the path of knowledge and from truly benefiting from knowledge. So it's from the most important affairs for a student to be aware of these issues and to see them and to identify them and to know them and how to get over them and to get past them, or to not be preoccupied them or detoured by them. So this is the case. Also al-awa'id. So we discussed al-ala'iq wal-awa'ik, and also there's al-awa'id. Al-awa'id, Ibn Qayyim, he mentioned as-sukunu ila da'ati wal-raha وما عرفه الناس واعتادوه. And the awa'id are the customs and the habits of the people with regards to having fun and entertainment and relaxing and enjoying themselves and kicking back in luxury and ease and the likes like this, and from the customs that they have. For example, maybe it's a custom of some people on this particular day, they all go eat together, and then they go here together, and they do this together, and they do that together, and they just enjoy themselves, and they laugh, and they joke, and they have fun. So he will turn himself away from that. He will cut off these customs. And this is going back to those likewise. But there are things that are from the customs of the people that they do in recreation and in having fun and enjoying themselves and just taking it easy and the likes like this. So the student, he will not be like that. And he will take part in that from time to time whenever his soul needs that, or whenever it's a right upon him to fulfill that. But in general, he will cut his ties with that, and he will be alone, away from those affairs, and he'll be preoccupied with his aim and with his goal, And the one who is sincere in this manner, then he will find a great Jannah and paradise and garden in his heart of joy and happiness that he will find. And whenever he is alone in seeking knowledge, whenever he is alone in seeking knowledge, or in the gatherings of knowledge with the other students, or whenever he's with his teacher, or whatever the case, or whenever he's reviewing, or whenever he's memorizing, he will find great contentment and happiness and joy and delight that cannot be found in hanging out with the friends, or in eating the delicious food, or in reclining and relaxing in the beautiful environments and like. It's a delight that is in the soul. It's a delight that's in the soul. That's something spiritual. It's a blessing. It's a delight of faith and joy. The sweetness of iman, halawatu al-ilmi wal-iman. It will come to a person whenever he turns away from these affairs and devotes himself to seeking knowledge for the sake of Allah. For the sake of Allah. So these are all benefits here with regards to this. Now he begins discussing another topic, and it's also of utmost importance, and that is at-tawadhu'. So each one of these issues here, or these points that he's mentioning, are very important. Some of them we'll pass by them briefly, and some of them we'll stop and look at them in a bit more detail because of the importance of them and the benefit that we hope from that. So he says, وَأَنْ يَتَوَضَّعَ لِلْمُعَلِّمِ وَيَنْقَادَ لَهُ وَيَأْتَمِرَ بِأَمْرِهِ كَمَا يَنْقَادُ الْمَرِيضُ لِطَبِيبٍ حَاذِقٍ نَاصِحٍ. So he says that he will humble himself before his teacher. And he will comply to him, and he will obey his command. In the same manner that a sick person who is a patient, he will comply to a sincere, advising, qualified, and clever doctor. The doctor who is the tabib, that is hadiq nasih. Hadiq meaning he's very qualified and he's very skillful. He's clever in his science of medicine. So the tabib that is clever and skillful in the science of medicine, and he's a sincere advisor. Whenever he advises the person who is sick, his patient, what will the patient do? The patient will take his advice. He will listen to him and he will follow him. If he gives him a prescription, he will purchase that and follow it. If he says, take this one this many times a day, this one has to be with food, this one has in the morning, this one in the evening, or if he tells, you need to go on a diet, or you need to you need to stop eating this type of food, or this type of issue you need to back away from, or you need to do this or do that, whatever the prescription that he prescribes, the patient, he's going to abide by that. He's going to take that advice, and he's going to take that prescription, and he's going to strive his best to fulfill it, because he knows that the doctor is sincere, and he's advising, and likewise he's qualified. And likewise he's qualified and skillful. So this is the case with tibb al-abdan, with the medication for the bodies. But as for tibb al-arwah, then this is in the hands of the people of knowledge. As for the medication and the cure for the souls, then this is at the hands of the people of knowledge, and by way of the revelation and that which is revealed to the prophets and messengers alayhimus salatu wassalam. And those who inherited that, they are the scholars of this ummah. So it is by their teaching and their cultivation and their advice and their experience and their direction that the souls become rectified and purified by the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the person who his heart is sick and the likes like this, and then he can only be cured by the revelation. And those who carry that and bear that and have that knowledge, they are the people of knowledge. They are the teachers. So this is the case here. But this is with regards to the teacher who's qualified again, because not all teachers are on the same level and on the same rank. And sometimes if a teacher, he's not qualified and he speaks out of his realm, maybe he'll give advice that's not proper or beneficial. And if a person were to follow the advice of some of the teachers, maybe they will fall into harm or fall into error or fall into mistake, or they will fall into fitna and trials and the likes like this. And this all goes back to understanding who is the proper teacher. So this is in the case of a teacher who is sincere and a teacher who's qualified, a teacher who has a good reputation of being honest and being truthful in the knowledge that he has and that he carries, and he's known for this affair, then no doubt if he orders the student will comply to that. And this is likewise again in the limits of the legislation. And this should not be misunderstood like the way of the Sufiya or the Rafida, that they will obey their sheikh and they will believe that he's ma'soom and they will do whatever he says no matter what. Or if they will say, for example, from the statements of the likes of those people, قَدْ تَكَلَّمَ الْوَالِدِ قَدْ تَكَلَّمَ الْوَالِدِ, the father has spoken. They'll say this about one of their scholars, and meaning he said his statement or he said his position, so you cannot oppose him no matter what. And then if we look at what he talked about, it's something from ijtihad or from his opinion and the likes like this. And there are other scholars that are just as qualified or of the same rank or higher that did not agree with him in this particular issue. And then for somebody to come along and say, oh, then this is from honoring the sheikh, or if you love the sheikh, then you would take his opinion. And if you love the sheikh, then you'll blind follow him no matter what. That's not love. That's not love. That's misguidance. But there's some people who call to this, and they claim they're Salafis. Maybe they aren't, but they're deficient in that. They're deficient in that. Wallahu al-musta'an. So this is not what is intended here, to call the people to blind follow the scholar or to blind follow the teacher or to take his statement and to follow it no matter what and to obey him in everything he says, even in the affairs of the dunya. This is not correct. This is not correct. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that the ruler, if he takes your money and beats your back, then you should obey him and listen to him. As for the scholar, that's not the same ruling. As for if there was a scholar who did the likes of this, then it's not the same ruling. It's not the same ruling. Allahul Musta'an. Allahul Musta'an. But no doubt that the teacher, he's respected and he's honored. And his advices should be respected as well. Should be respected as well. But again, this is something that is understood in the limits and the realms of the legislation. Now he says, rahimahullah ta'ala, before that, with regards to this issue of tawadu, no doubt about this, and the proper understanding and limit. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man ma tawadda'a ahadun lillah illa rafahu Allah." In the hadith of Abi Hurairah and Sahih Muslim, that no one has ever humbled himself before Allah except Allah will raise him. So to humble oneself before Allah, meaning to His commandments, to comply to His commandments by performing them, and to avoid His prohibitions by leaving and staying away from them. And likewise here, whenever the student honors his teacher and respects his teacher, it's for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of the teacher. It's for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of the teacher. So we honor the scholars for the sake of Allah. It's from our deen that we respect the scholars, the people of knowledge. We love them. We love them. At the head of them, after the prophets and anbiya, the companions of the prophet, and then the scholars of hadith, until our day. We love them and honor and respect them. But this is deen. Nadeen Allah bi. This is deenun nadeen Allah bihi. That this is our religion, and we seek nearness to Allah by loving the scholars and respecting them and honoring them and keeping them in their proper place without going to extremes with regards to that. So this is the issue here. And whenever a person is humble before the teacher and he's respectful with his teacher, then according to this would be how well he advances in knowledge. And if he is arrogant or boastful or proud or rude with the teacher, this will only delay him and it will only prohibit him. And many times a teacher, he will find that the student is humble and he's well-mannered and he is courteous in his speech, then that teacher will give him great time and effort. He will spend much more time with him, yani directly or generally or directly or personally and the likes like this. And then that student, he will have great benefit, will open up to him from that particular teacher because he's well-mannered. And as for the student who's rude, then maybe the teacher will not open up to him and will not draw him close and will not give him any extra benefit. And he will answer his questions yes and no, or it's allowed, no, it's not allowed. And even before, if he had good manners, maybe he will answer the question and then increase him and add more benefits and the likes like this. But now because of his rudeness, the teacher will just answer him and leave him and turn away from him because of his foul and lowly manners. So this is something to keep in mind. The people of knowledge, they refer to this. It has been narrated by Abdullah ibn al-Mu'taz, rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, "Al-mutawadhi'u min tulab al-ilmi aktharuhum ilma, kama anna al-makan al-munkhafid aktharu al-biqa'i ma'an." Then the one who is humble, and meaning he's not arrogant, he's not proud, he's not boastful. The one who is humble from the students of knowledge, he's the one who has the most knowledge. Just as the lands that are lower, they're the lands that collect the most water. The lands that collect the most water. And we know the relationship or the parable between water and knowledge. And that water, it gives life to the land. Just like knowledge, it gives life to the heart and to the soul. So then the water, it collects in the lowlands. And the lowlands, they're the lands that benefit from that. They benefit from the water, they hold the water, and the people irrigate from that, and likewise they drink from that, and their animals drink from that, and then that water likewise produces crops and much vegetation and fruits and the likes and herbage, and it's very beneficial. But as for the highlands and the water, it doesn't stay there. Rather, it runs off, and those lands benefit briefly. So this is the example of the humble student and the one who is arrogant. His benefit is brief and small. As for the one who is humble, then his benefit is great. Is great. And the people of knowledge, they say with regards to this likewise, العلم يأتي كل ذي خفض ويأبى كل آبي ويأبى كل آبي كالماء ينزل في الوهاد وليس يسعد في الأعالي. That the knowledge, it comes to every person who is humble, and it refuses everyone who rejects, any of those who are arrogant and reject. And just as the water, it comes down into the lowlands and it does not go up into the highlands. The water, it comes down into the lowlands. It does not go up into the highlands. The people of knowledge, they say, العلم حرب للفتى المتعالي كالسير حرب للمكان العالي. That the knowledge, it is it's a war, and it's in opposition. It's at war against the young man who is arrogant and boastful. The young man who is arrogant and boastful, just as the sail, yani the flowing water, is at war with the highlands, with the highlands. And meaning that the water, whenever it hits the highlands, it does not stay there. It leaves quickly. It leaves quickly. Whenever the water falls on the highlands, like the peaks of the mountains, for example, or those the high elevated areas, the water falls on that, and then it leaves quickly. It does not gather there nor stay there, as if it cannot stand to be there. As if it cannot stand to be there. Likewise, the knowledge is the same way. It will not be gathered in the heart of the one who is arrogant and boastful. In the heart of the one who is arrogant and boastful, it will not be gathered there. As for the one who is humble and he lowers himself for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, and he follows the correct path, then now this will be a place for the knowledge to gather and to collect. For the knowledge to gather and to collect. So this is beautiful examples that people of knowledge, they mention with regards to humbleness, being humble and being well-mannered, and the likes like this, with the student with his teacher specifically, with his teacher specifically. So he says, now mentioning from the most important benefits for a student of knowledge. This right here is advice that is, as they say, golden. ولا يأخذ العلم إلا ممن كملت أهليته وظهرت ديانته وتحققت معرفته وكان له دربة وخلق جميل وذهن صحيح وطراء تام. This is from the manners of the students of knowledge, that he should not take knowledge except for the one who has his qualifications have been fulfilled, and he has completed the qualifications of knowledge, and likewise his religion and is well known, is apparent, and that he is a person of religion, meaning he is a person who is abiding by the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal outwardly and avoiding and staying away from the prohibitions. This is something that's known about him. ظهرت ديانته, and ديانته يعني تقوى واستقامته على دين الله عز وجل. This is something that is apparent from him. And likewise his knowledge, he's known, and his knowledge is known likewise, and he's somebody who has experience, and he has beautiful manners and conduct, and he has a mind that is correct, and his mind and his intelligence is proper and good, and also he has ittila' tam, somebody who is reviewing and going over the issues in great detail. He's well-rounded in his knowledge. Meaning he's researching a number of different works with regards to one issue until he's well-versed in these affairs. This is the ideal teacher that one he will look for and that one he will hope to have. First and foremost, من كملت أهليته, to be qualified, to be a teacher. The people of knowledge, they clarified that the knowledges are different types. They have علوم الغاية وعلوم الآلة. They have the sciences that we learn, which is an aim and a goal to learn them. Is an aim and a goal to learn them. We learn them for the purpose of applying that knowledge, and then in application in our life. And then there are other sciences that are called instrumental knowledge, ulum al-ala, which is a means to understand this other science. So we have the sciences that are a goal and aims that we want to reach, and we have the sciences that are tools and instruments that are a means to help us reach that. So ulum al-ghaya in general, it is التفسير أو الفقه التفسير والحديث والفقه. التفسير والحديث والفقه. These are the three major sciences. You want to understand the speech of Allah properly, and likewise the narrations in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ correctly, and you want to have the proper understanding in the religion and how to apply this knowledge and abide by it and live by it. But before a person can delve in the sciences of tafsir and try to understand the interpretation of the Quran or the explanation and derive the rulings from that, or the explanation of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and understand the limits and regulations that are found there likewise, and to be able to understand the benefits that are derived from these sources. To truly have fiqh, a person first he has to have instruments that will qualify him to go there. He will first have to have instruments that will qualify him to go there. A person, if he's going to build a house, for example, and he doesn't even have anything but a screwdriver, he's not going to get too far. He's not really qualified. The only thing he knows how to do is use a Phillips or a flathead. He doesn't know anything about a saw or anything about a level or anything about any of these other affairs and the likes like this, measuring, and he doesn't know about fractions. He doesn't know about all these other detailed issues. How is he going to build a house? All he has is a screwdriver. Same thing like this. How is a person going to build a house of fiqh and understanding in the religion without the proper instruments and tools? So the first tool that one must have is the Arabic language. He must be fluent in that in a good manner. And what is intended now, after being fluent in the Arabic language, then he will learn the sciences of the Arabic language well, in a good manner. He'll become grounded in that, in nahu, and then sarf, and likewise he will benefit from the issues of balagha as well. And this will help him whenever he goes to usul al-fiqh, which is the next science that is also likewise from that instrumental knowledge, the fundamental issues of al-fiqh, usul al-fiqh. This is a very beneficial and important science. And likewise, usul al-hadith. These are instrumental knowledges that will be a means for him to understand and benefit from these texts. So these are from the knowledges that are considered a means to become qualified in seeking knowledge and to become firm. But no doubt, first and foremost, before that, even the qualification which takes precedence is to have the proper creed. And to be upon the proper methodology in general. And then along with that, you need to have these other qualifications to become strong in the knowledge and to be beneficial. So a person, he will look for a teacher that is qualified in this manner, in order to benefit in the best way. But along with that knowledge as well, he has what is apparent from him, a strong religion, a strong deen, meaning he is somebody that is known from him to be steadfast upon the obligations and the commandments of Allah Azza wa Jal, and upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Likewise, he's looking for a teacher that has experience. And then he mentioned again, along with that strong religion that is well known, the noble and good manners and the good conduct. And he mentioned again, likewise, he's looking for a teacher that his mind is correct and sound, and is sound, meaning he's not from those who are hasty and those who are reckless and the likes like that. Rather, he's from those people who are calm and collective, and they have those traits that have preceded from al-hilmi wal-waqar and the likes like this. Wal-ittila' at-tam, meaning somebody who has reviewed the issues in great detail, and he's aware of the different positions and statements of the Salaf and the people of knowledge, and the issues with regards to the affairs of the religion and creed and belief, in methodology, and likewise in conduct, also in fiqh and jurisprudence. Someone who is aware of the different statements and positions of the people of knowledge in order to benefit from the likes of this person. So he's saying now this is what one he will strive to look for in a teacher. So this means that a student, he will not just sit down in front of anyone. This means that a student, he will not just sit down in front of anyone. Rather, he will look to who he's going to learn from, and he would observe them. And likewise, the Salaf, they were like this. A number of them, they would they would travel to an individual to learn from him, but before they sat in his gathering, they would observe him. They would observe him and they would look at his prayer. And it's been mentioned from some of the Salaf that they would look at his prayer. If his prayer was good, then they would sit and seek knowledge from him. And if his prayer was not good, then they would say if he's negligent in his salah, then he's even more negligent in the rest of his deen, and they would leave him and go somewhere else and seek knowledge. They would leave him and go somewhere else and seek knowledge. So this is something that is important, to look for those who are qualified. It has been collected by Tirmidhi, rahimahullah, from the hadith of Hurayth ibn Qabisa. Hurayth ibn Qabisa, he's from the Tabi'een. He said, قدمت المدينة فقلت اللهم يسر لي جليسا صالحا. He said, I came to Medina, and from traveling, and I said, oh Allah, facilitate for me to have a righteous companion to sit with, and he meaning to learn with. قال فجلست إلى أبي هريرة. So he said, when I got there, I sat down and I was sitting with Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه. فقلت إني سألت الله أن يرزقني جليسا صالحا فحدثني بحديث سمعته من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, indeed, he told Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, I said, I made dua to Allah and I asked him to provide me with a righteous companion, and here I am with you, so therefore narrate to me what you heard from the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. So at this time, Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, he narrated the famous hadith that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, إن أول ما يحاسب عليه العباد يوم القيامة الصلاة, until the end of the hadith. The first thing that the people will be held accountable from their actions is the prayer, until the end of the hadith. The shahid is that he's supplicating. He's on his way to Medina to seek knowledge. On the way there, he's thinking about this affair. Oh Allah, provide me with the righteous teacher. Provide me with the righteous teacher, someone who will teach me and direct me, and who will be sincere and doing that. Who will be sincere in doing that. The people of knowledge, they mention lines of poetry about these affairs likewise. From that they say, ما حوى الغاية في ألف سنة شخص فخذ من كل فن أحسن بحفظ متن جامع للراجح تأخذه على مفيد ناسح تأخذه على مفيد ناسح. The people of knowledge, they say that a person, he will never be able to obtain all of the knowledge, not in 1,000 years. Not in 1,000 years. One person, he will not be able to obtain all of the knowledge. He will not to be able to obtain all of the knowledge. We have seen that before, huh? العلم بحور زاخرة لن يبلغ الكادح فيه آخرة. That knowledge is vast oceans. The one who strives and delves through it, he will never reach the end. He will never reach the end. So what do? فَخُذْ مِنْ كُلِّ فَنٍ أَحْسَنًا. So you take from every science the best of that. You take from every science the best of that. How do you do that? بِحِفْظِ مَتْنٍ جَامِعٍ الرَّاجِحِ. By memorizing a small matn, a small text that gathers the best and the strongest position in the topic and in the issue. So the knowledge is vast, it's great. You can never obtain all of it, not in 1,000 years. So what should you do? Memorize one of those small texts that gathers all the majority of the most important topics and affairs of that science and in that particular method. And you do this with every science. For example, in Lugha or Nahu al-Ajrumiyyah, like this, or Alfiyat ibn Malik, if you go past that. Like this. And then, like for example, in Aqidah, Usul al-Thalatha, Qawaid al-Arba', Usul al-Sitta, and then Kitab al-Tawheed. And then in fiqh of hadith, 40 hadith, and then Umdat al-Ahkam and Bulugh al-Maram, like this. And then move like this. These texts here, they gather all of the issues in small beneficial text. So you memorize the likes of this, and because you can't get all of the knowledge. But what do? وَلَكِنَّ فِي أُصُولِهِ تَسِيرِ. These are the usul of knowledge. So he says, تَأْخُذُهُ عَلَى مُفِيدٍ نَاسِهِ. That's the point. So you don't memorize it by yourself. You don't study and read it by yourself. Rather, you memorize that and you take that particular text at the hand of somebody who was beneficial and a sincere advisor. So the teacher, he must be mufid. He must be a teacher who's mufid and sincere, nasir. He's not trying to gather the people around him, rather he's trying to benefit the people in front of him. Some people, they just want to gather people around them. They want to they're not calling to the dars, they're calling to the teacher. They're calling to the teacher. There's a difference between calling the people to the dars and checking off. For example, we've seen from the manners of the teacher to check on those who are absent. Some people, they check on those who are absent, and not because they're absent from the dars, but because they're absent from the teacher. No, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is from that foul intention. This is from that corrupt intention. Rather, you check on those who are absent from the dars, not from the teacher. Because you're not calling to the teacher, you're calling to the knowledge. You're calling to Allah Azza wa Jal. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. So this is the manner to seek knowledge, like this. And he summarized in these verses. Summarizing these verses. فَمَا حَوَى الْغَايَةَ فِي أَلْفِ سَنَةٍ شَخْصٌ فَخُذْ مِنْ كُلِّ فَنٍ أَحْسَنًا بِحِفْظِ مَتْنٍ جَامِعٍ لِلرَّاجِحِ تَأْخُذُهُ عَلَى مُفِيدٍ نَاسِحِ. You take it at the hand of somebody who is beneficial. He's beneficial at the science he's discussing and that he's teaching. And whenever you sit with him, he benefits you. And every class, there's more benefit. And it's as if you keep growing and growing and growing in this manner like this. And he's a sincere advisor. So this is something that a believer, he will look for, he will hope for, he will beg Allah for, that Allah will provide him with a beneficial teacher, likewise companions as well, any colleagues and classmates, and those who he will study and seek knowledge with, zumala fi talab al-ilm. He will beg Allah to provide for him the good and noble companions as well. The good and noble companions as well. But at the head of that is a teacher. Is a teacher that is upright. May Allah rectify our affairs and benefit us with knowledge. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.